We're on. Anna Deavere Smith, you did some really interesting interviews, including Chuck Close, which you said was revelatory.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, I learned so much from Chuck Close and from Fred Wilson, who's a conceptual artist who's here. What I learned was that, you know, the whole myth of the bad boy in art, or in the arts, or the enfant terrible, you actually get a lot further if you're charming, which both of those men are. I mean, they get away with murder, I think, because they have a very charming affect, but they're actually both very cutting edge.
And Chuck Close, so much of his story revolves around the framing of his dyslexia, which surprised you at how profound that was.
That's right. Agnes Gund, who is, you know, an extraordinary friend to all artists, is a person who I talked to about Chuck, because I knew that she knew him very well. And I said, what's the most important thing for me to know about Chuck Close? And she said, he's dyslexic. And I thought, well, that's interesting, but is that, you know, I thought she'd have some big thing about his place in art and history. And then when I sat with him to do the pre-interview, it turned out to be absolutely the most important thing to know about him, because it gave him a different way of looking at the world. Rauschenberg, in fact, said of him about that matter that, you know, we have to have people who find other venues to absorb their intelligence. I thought that was a fabulous thing. People who find other venues in which to absorb their intelligence. And of course, what Chuck Close did with that idea of his dyslexia was to make a very riveting argument for art in the schools.
Yeah. And he also evidently doesn't see faces, which is what fascinated him, which led to his work.
Well, when he was a kid, he couldn't see faces, and he was dyslexic. Not only that, he had neuromuscular problems, so he couldn't run and jump and throw. And so what he learned was the power of getting people to come to him. So he first started out doing magic tricks. His father gave him a magic set when he was 5 years old, or built one from him. His father was an inventor. And so he first learned through magic. And when you think of it, magic is also something that takes a lot of diligence and repetition, learning the tricks. So I'm sure that began to feed his whole work ethic, which he has an extraordinary work. He paints every day. And even after he became a quadriplegic, near quadriplegic, and only could move his head at first and then just his upper arms, in rehab he began to paint again.
Thanks.
You bet.